introduce you to an amazing person that has helped me strengthen my core. She's actually kicking my butt 3 times a week right now and making me kick my own butt every now and then as well. But you're going to meet Shellane. Shellane is here to talk to us a little bit about how to make 2013 not a time to necessarily diet, not a time to necessarily get in there to try and lose weight, but a time to make life healthier. And she's going to just kind of share some tips. You know, those of you that have known me for a while have seen that I've been on this roller coaster ride of weight gaining and losing and gaining and losing. It's just, but the key was I wasn't being healthy. So before we begin, tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do for a living.
Well, my name is Shellane Demarest, and I am a personal trainer. I am also a figure competitor, and I am also now a CrossFit competitor. So we talk about evolving and going into new chapters in our life, and that's kind of like where I'm being led right now. I truly enjoy teaching. I enjoy just sharing my gift of athletic grace that God's given me and sharing it with you 3 times a week and others at the studio.
You know, I think it's really important and funny to mention that I don't have an athletic gift. I was one of the kids on the playground when people were picking, you know, 1, 2, 3. I was always the last to get picked. You know, I was the token person that nobody wanted on their team. So I never was athletic. I never really got into exercising. And there was a period in my life where I trained for about 3 years and got so fit that my husband said I was bulking up and wanted me to stop. So I stopped, and then I was like, well, heck, if you're not happy when I'm exercising, then I'm just not, you know. Big mistake, huge, Jeff, I tell you. But it took me through this journey of it not being about losing weight, but accepting, like for me, I've accepted the fact that I probably will need a trainer for the rest of my life. I probably will, because I'm not disciplined enough to push myself the way you have. Talk to people about if they're struggling with they're not 100% happy with their body. They're struggling with maybe wanting to lose weight or not being able to find that pattern of time to permit themselves to exercise. What would you recommend for them?
Well, what I would recommend, first of all, is 2013, the new year, is not about making that resolution. It's all about making a commitment. It's a promise. It's, in other words, making yourself accountable for the decisions that you make. And it's okay if you fall a little short. The fact is that you are being real with yourself. Moderation is key. And it's all about loving and accepting who you are and not comparing yourself to someone else.
I never did Pilates or yoga, and I always was worried that I'd feel very strange with that. And like I mentioned, I did train consistently for a very long time. What I've discovered and what I like specifically about you and why I wanted you on the show today is you kind of do, it's always different. Like you're always like throwing an exercise that I've never seen or heard about, but you also do unique things that I can easily take on the road with me.
Yes.
And that I could do for 15 minutes or whatever at the end of the day. And it pushes you. Like you've done the simplest things to me and I'm like, wow, why did that hurt so bad? And what's that all about? When you talk about strengthening the core, what do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, I'm going to back up a little bit. You mentioned something about 15 minutes. We are always on the go, and I'm actually just going to use this. We see this often, Target, you know, Walmart. This is a simple resistant tube. Different colors have different resistant levels, but as soon as you pick it up and you pull, it's working automatically. It's light. You can put it in your suitcase. 10, 15 minutes is really all that you need. Or if you are in an office job and you do a lot of sitting, all you would really do is place this underneath your feet and do simple exercises right from your chair. So it's really simple. But to answer your question about the core is simply this. It's not just upper abdominals where you see a lot of people doing crunches. It's upper and lower abdominals. It's the obliques. And it's also working the lower back. So you've actually have 3 parts. It's a 3-dimensional area that we must work, and if you do it correctly, you actually work what's called the cross muscular sling. So if the exercise is done correctly, you actually work areas from the top shoulder diagonally down into the lower section.
And we have a lot of women that are watching today, all age ranges. You know, we have members that are 20, we have members that are 70, you know, that range. But most of our members are between 35 and 55. And I know you're right there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So looking at that demographic and looking at that age group, what is it the core area that most of these women struggle with the most? I mean,
I find what's happening as we go into these stages of our life where, you know, things aren't as perky as they used to be. resistance training is so important. So whether you use the tube or even if it's just soup cans at home, your muscles as you age start to shrink. And without the adequate amount of resistance training, you're going to look saggy. So by actually doing the resistance exercise, you build the muscle, giving yourself a nice, youthful, lean appearance. I mean, I'm 46 years old. You know, and people don't believe me. They ask to see my driver's license, but I am a walking testimony of healthy living.
Now, have you been healthy your entire life?
No. I actually was in high school. I was a size 18 and growing. I remember going into the stores and the suits, you know, I would take the size, you know, the bottom sizes were always larger than the top sizes, getting in trouble, but struggling with food, understanding what worked, what didn't work, comparing myself to others because I wasn't like everybody else, and I was really not liking myself for the longest time. And it wasn't until this part of my life where I understood food, myself, and exercise, how to do it correctly, is when I finally became comfortable with myself.
And what life change happened to make you say, I'm going to change today?
It's when I actually, back in 2010, had to get a scope done on my knee. And I thought my job, at the time, I was simply just a fitness instructor, and I thought my life was over as far as a teacher. And once I came back from that surgery, that's when I decided I'm going to do all the things that I said that I wanted to do, and hence began my journey as a figure competitor. So I learned how to eat correctly, how to train differently, and became comfortable standing on stage in a bathing suit that big.
I can imagine that would be challenging. Gosh knows I won't do that. You got a long way to go with me, honey, before that's going to happen. Okay, well, I asked you to share some ideas. So we're all busy women, okay? And the busier that we are, what I want to empower you with, and I would encourage you to do, is just take some time in 2013 to be healthier, to plan on saying, you know what, I'm going to be healthier. If not for yourself, because so many of us won't take time for ourselves. So if not for yourself, take time to be healthier for your children, for your spouses, for your employees, because they depend on you. If you're not healthy, you know, their paychecks go away too. So can you give us a couple of pointers or show us some exercises that you would recommend for the working busy mother that just needs to get started?
Okay. Well, fitness is going towards functional training. You can hear it over and over again. So it's no longer looking good in a bathing suit, because unless you are in a gym environment, you're not going to walk around with your, you know, midsection exposed. It's all about being healthy enough so when you go to pick up that object from the top shelf, say like if you're at Publix and you've got the water and or whatever is up here and you go to pick it up, you have to use these muscles to lift and twist and place in the cart. So I'm going to show you two simple exercises that you can do. They are simple that you can do.
Trust me, they look a lot simpler than they are. Yeah.
So the main thing is that it's strengthening through here. So the first exercise I'm going to do is it's what's called a hover. My knees, and I'm going to actually do this modified. My knees are hip distance. I'm going to come down on the floor, and I'm going to place my elbows directly underneath my shoulders, and I'm actually going to bring my knuckles together. My toes are going to be down, and what I'm doing is holding my hips level with my shoulders, so I'm not here and I'm not here. So this is a hover. So this is level one, the easier version, and then once you gain enough strength, you can lift your knees off the floor. And this is where fitness is going, because by doing this, this is what they call three-dimensional training. I'm strengthening my upper and lower abdominals, I'm using my obliques, and I'm also using my lower back. So I'm going to drop down and go into what's called a plank. And this is, you hear this often in Pilates. So now, the hands right underneath the shoulders. Level one is this. Level two is simply bringing your knees off the floor. And oftentimes, incorrect, I see this or I see this. And you want to be right here. So just starting out, if you just do those two exercises, that will in fact strengthen your core.
Can you show them the one that blew my mind, where your arm was one way and your leg was the other way? It looked so simple, and it blew my mind. It was the hardest, 30 seconds? I don't know how long it felt like 2 hours. It was the hardest short segment of time ever.
So here we go. So we start from the table position, and your knees going to be underneath your hips, hand's going to be underneath your shoulder, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my outside leg. I'm going to extend here, and I'm going to extend the opposite hand. And then once you get, strong through the core, what she's talking about, all I did was tilt in a 45-degree angle and just holding this level so your thumb is level with the shoulder and the heel is level with the glute. This is what's now activating that cross-muscular sling. I'm going to come down here and release. That's level 1. Level 2, which I haven't done with Kathleen.
I'd fall on my face if you did that with me.
Bring your hand here, lifting your heel up, and bringing this hand out, and then just holding.
That's awesome. Give her a round of applause, everybody.
Oh, my goodness.
That is awesome. Anything else before you sit back down that you wanted that was important for you to show us?
Well, I will show one more thing. Side cover. So my knees are going to be lined up with my hips, elbow against underneath the shoulder, knuckles facing out.
You're fine.
Okay, and I'm going to lift my hip underneath. I'm just going to hold this up. Now, this is, believe it or not, a level. If you cannot lift your hip up, this is fine. This is good. Another variation, and the stronger you get, the more intensity you can add to the exercise. And what that's doing is just working on your oblique.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And while I let yourself pull yourself together and get back up, I think that it's been amazing because it's been a combination of weights and yoga and Pilates and exercising. But what I have felt is how huge it is about strengthening the areas that I need the most help on, but the areas that are the most challenging for me, which is important, and how I do feel like I'm getting healthier, because it's not necessarily just about building your arm exercise or your calves or your thighs. It's truly about becoming stronger, having your core become stronger. And the little things that can happen like your knee, if you're not strong and if you're not aware of your body and your strengths and your weaknesses, can truly affect your future and your health in the future as you continue to move forward. So as far as cardio is concerned, what do you recommend for the working busy woman as far as cardio is concerned? What do you most suggest for a mom that's on the go? Like, what is the minimum for somebody that's doing nothing now? What would you recommend?
I mean, at least 30 minutes. And it could be simple as a walk. Everyone thinks cardio, I must run. You don't have to run. You can ride a bike. You could just, walk your dog. Break out the stroller and walk, your child around the block, get some friends and walk together, I mean, cardio is anything that gets your heart rate elevated higher than just typical everyday, just sedentary lifestyle.
I think that's important. And, I just had somebody, we talked about this the other day, just recently, somebody said to me that we were out on the bike trail and my kids were going, and my son, who's 6 years old, had me going so fast, my lungs felt cold. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, you're breathing so heavy, my lungs felt cold. But it was great family fun time. And I look back on, for 6 years I've had my children, and we never had fun that way. And I think that's really important. So how can you do something fun and something unique and something different and continue to challenge yourself?
Right. And also your children, they're seeing you and you're actually establishing that legacy. You're going to get them more involved in doing things, physically, and then with the right eating, you're also teaching them, the correct way of eating. So you're just passing the torch, so to speak. So
thank you for saying that, because I think that's important, and that's one of the lessons that I've learned is, I wasn't raised to eat correctly. I mean, my mom, I remember when we got our first microwave. I don't know if it was just when microwaves were invented or our family was just behind the times, but I remember getting our first microwave, and so we grew up in fast foods and microwave dinners and all of that, and reprogramming not only yourself, but reprogramming your children, I think is really important. So when they grow older and they grow up, they're used to certain tastes, they're used to certain things to eat, and they're not in that fast food mentality or microwave mentality, which is important. Mm-hmm. Now, is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that you recommended or suggested to someone that's out there that's struggling with their weight, with their appearance, with who they are because they're not healthy?
Well, excuse me, have an idea of where it is realistically. We're not looking for perfection, we're looking for results. So that's going to require I would suggest personally at least 3 days of resistance training, 2 days of cardio. And with the days that you do cardio, alternate that with some ab work. And please, 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 I can't stress enough, before and after your physical activity, please stretch. That is going to, because we want you to keep doing. We don't want you to overexert and get hurt, and then you're like, I'm not trying that. So make sure that you stretch, please.
I think that's important. You know, I do want to just mention too, I challenge each and every one of you to try and do a sit-up, because it blew my mind when we first met and got together. It blew my mind how I hadn't tried to do a sit-up in so long and how hard that actually was. And it took the use of this band for me to actually get to the point of doing it, and now it's a challenge to me. It's not exercising to look like good in a bathing suit. It's a challenge for me because I want to be able to do a sit-up again. And I think that a year can go by, 5 years can go by, 10 years can go by, and then you can go, oh my gosh, I can't do that anymore, because your body just changes, which is amazing. So, Shellane, tell them where you're located at.
We are located on 224 West Central Parkway, and that's the intersection of Douglas and Central Parkway. So if you remember where that big shiny mirrored building is right there off of I-4, we're right on the opposite side.
Absolutely. My son calls that the Whistle Building, so it's right near the Altamont Mall. So whether you're here in the Altamont area or the Longwood area, or you're in Texas or Georgia and you're watching today, I challenge you to take a moment to get fit, to get healthy, and to make a difference in 2013. And as I said before, not just for you, but for your kids, for your family, for your employees. And because you know what? You feel better.
Yes,
you know,
you
just
do.
knowing that you're trying makes yourself feeling better. But if you focus on, I should be doing this, you start shoulding all over yourself, I should be doing this, and then your thinking becomes stinking thinking because you just don't feel comfortable with who you are or what you're doing, which is really important. So I challenge you to stop shoulding on yourself and get together and make tomorrow a new day, because you can do it. Not I could do it. You can do it, and you can make a difference.